the body can be broken down into two sections: the axial portion, which is the head, neck, and trunk or spine, and the appendicular portion, which is your arms and legs. So here with the blue is your axial skeleton, and then the red, which you can see, which we know that append means to hang, and you can actually see your arms and legs hanging from that axial skeleton. Now inside your abdominal cavity, you have what are called viscera. These are your internal organs. Your internal organs are located in cavities. You have a dorsal cavity, which is the back side. This is going to include your cranial cavity, which houses your brain, and your vertebral cavity, which houses your spinal cord. And then you'll have your ventral cavity, which is going to be your front. And the ventral cavity consists of the thoracic cavity, which is this purple, which has your heart and lungs and the mediastinum. You have your abdominal cavity, which houses internal organs such as your spleen, your intestines, your stomach, liver. And then pelvic cavity, the green, which would be bladder and reproductive organs, and part of your large intestine. When you put both of those together, they call that your abdominopelvic cavity, and this is where your viscera is going to be located, for your internal organs. Separating the thoracic from the abdominopelvic is a flat muscle called the diaphragm, which assists in breathing. Here's another picture of it. Like I just talked about, your mediastinum is located right here. Now, when we talk about the lungs, we are talking about pleura. That's what we call the lungs. And your heart is going to be pericardial. So that's your pleural cavity and your pericardial cavity. When we're talking about the abdominal area, that's going to be your peritoneal cavity. Now, all cavities have membranes, and we call them serous membranes. A serous membrane is 2 layers, and it has, in the middle, it has this serous fluid, which is there to lubricate and prevent friction from taking place. In your outer layer, it's going to be your parietal. In the inner layer that is actually touching the organs is going to be your visceral, because it lines the organs. Now, when I'm talking about the heart, I'm talking about the pericardium. Like I just said, it's the pericardial cavity. And the lungs are called pleura, so that'd be your pleural cavity. And then your abdominopelvic region is called your peritoneal cavity, or your peritoneum, is your organs. So when I'm using these two together to explain what a serous membrane, the name of it, if I was talking about the lungs, the inner membrane would be the visceral pleura, because it's actually coming in contact with the lungs. And the outer membrane would be the parietal pleura, because it's the outer membrane is parietal, and it's around the lungs, which is pleura, and then the serous fluid is in between those two. The heart, the inner layer would be the visceral pericardium, and the outer layer would be the parietal pericardium. Now, your abdominal cavity, the entire thing has your parietal peritoneum. So this membrane encompasses the entire abdominal area. And then you have smaller, the visceral peritoneum actually goes right around the organs. And then all of those organs are bathed in that serous fluid to prevent crowding and things like that.